And welcome back to Zanpakuto Creation Series. Excuse me. Today's Zanpakuto Creation Series suggestion comes to us from... I think it's Parker Smith. Parker Smith, were you the one who gave me Mr. Wubblabba Dub Dub Rick Sanchez, bitch? Was that you? I think it was. Yes, Parker Smith. You ask, what is Rick Sanchez? Rick Sanchez is... What is Rick's Zanpakuto? Rick's a very unique character. He's a very nihilistic character just because he knows the whole truth of the universe, pretty much. And therefore tries to control it within his means. But he's also a very sad and hurt character, too. So, what is a representation of him? What is the representation of his Zanpakuto? Well, it's definitely a Keto type. He's not a... I mean, he certainly does get into physical fights and all that, but his intellect, his ideology, all that translates more to a Zanpakuto of a Keto-based nature. It would still be a sealed katana. And I think the release would be something along the lines of suffer for truth or suffer from the truth. Now, the name of the Shikai would be all-knowing, and then this Bankai would be window to all, which translates out to, again, thanks to lovely Google Translate, Sabete Shite Iru, and then Sabete Inu Mado for the Bankai. In terms of what the spirit of this Zanpakuto is, I think it's kind of an older, haggard, more worn down looking version of Bird Person. This is someone who's very close to him, so I think, whenever Rick would get his Zanpakuto, this is the individual that it kind of takes the form of. We know that the representation of your soul, the spirit of your Zanpakuto, is influenced by who you are, obviously, and what you've experienced. Look at Shunsui, Kenpachi. I'm thinking of all the. There's also the Kenpachi's Araki, by the way. There's also Sashiro, Azashiro. I can't remember the 8th Kenpachi, and who was the other one? Kisuke. While we don't know Kisuke's backstory, all the other ones had a very strong, influential female figure in their life that molded who they were more or less. With Kenpachi, it was Unohana. With Azashiro, it was his sister. With Shunsui, it was I believe his brother's sister, something along those lines. So yeah, for Rick, I think Bird Person being his best friend may be the best representation of his Zanpakuto. But that now begs the question, what does the Zanpakuto actually do? Well, in Shikai, I think basically the form the blade takes actually does not take an actual horn. The blade stays the same, but what it does is the blade is constantly rotting and reforming. More or less. It's what I mean by this is the blade is always constantly absorbing reishi from around the surroundings, and is reforming and firing off the energy. So basically, it's absorption and then fire, absorption and fire. And Rick can't control this like perfectly. He can't stop it from doing that. But he can at least mitigate he can maybe time it to a certain degree, absorb it after a certain amount of time, and then release it afterwards. But he can't stop it. And I think this is kind of a good representation of who Rick is. Someone who's constantly taking in the information around the world, constantly dealing with the trauma and trying to find ways, but he ultimately just releases it out in a negative fashion. And it's just a constant cycle for him. His Bankai, the sword, rots away and reforms as a set of decrepit-looking wings, or wings of reishi, that are continually doing the exact same thing the Shikai is doing, just on a more extensive level. It's now just the wings can grow bigger. He can even continue the absorption, but his body can only take so much of the strain until he finally releases it and he falls back down with these decrepit, like, skeletal wings, and then the wings reform again, and so forth and so on. Basically, Rick's Zanpakuto, I think, is a good representation of who Rick is. Someone who's in a constant circle of healing and then pain. Healing and then pain. Like, he is doing things that try to help him out if he can. Or that he does do, so let me rephrase that. He does do things that do help him as a person overall. but then hurt him as a person. Like for every step he takes a step back. For every 2 steps, he takes a step back. For every 1 step he takes forward, 2 steps. He's constantly back and forth, back and forth. And I think this kind of Zanpakuto works great, where it's showing that he's kind of like dying on the inside a little bit, but he's constantly trying to step out of it too, despite the way he views things. Now, Zanpakuto has a level of problems to it, but all Zanpakuto aren't perfect. So that's not a slight on Rick himself. If anything, the fact that he has such a weakness is actually a big think words here, is actually a very good representation of who Rick is. For all Rick's strength and ability and skill, he does have a very severe weakness in himself, on multiple levels. The Zanpakuto would suck at melee combat. This is not a Zanpakuto you want to clash with for more than a few seconds to minutes at times, where it rots away. And yeah, now that being said, Rick can maybe use this as a strategy. Come in. He thinks the opponent tries to block his blade, the blade rots away, and he then just releases the blade back with energy blast towards him. That could work, but it's not a melee sword at all. Also, his body would only be able to take so much, as it's constantly absorbing and releasing Reiatsu, including his own. So if he's not careful, he could theoretically just run out he could just run out of his own Reiatsu, not just his own not just Zanpakuto's, because Zanpakuto has its own separate Reiatsu pool as well. So yeah, and obviously a stronger Reiatsu is just going to overpower this guy too. So yeah, that though I think is Rick's Zanpakuto. I think it's a fairly good representation of who Rick is, and therefore as a Zanpakuto, a good representation overall. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. What do you think a Zanpakuto would be if you don't agree with this? Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.